have to interpret the performance, narrate it, and emotionally anchor it into the people's reality. Democracy is not on the stock market. That's where the technocrats love to talk about, Fitch and Moody and the central bank. Democracy is at Coronation Market. Coronation Market. I see my moderator giving me the wrap-up signal, and so I will I will have to pick this up back tomorrow. Am I on tomorrow? I don't know. I have to check it out. Okay, so Max Weber, finally, he taught that authority rests not on performance alone, but on legitimacy. The belief that power is exercised rightfully and meaningfully. Technocratic success can sustain the state, but legitimacy sustains the consent. And the 2025 election revealed a legitimacy tremor, not a collapse, because winning 35 seats indicates that the credibility remained intact, that the electorate did not abandon the government wholesale, but the loss of 14 seats signals a problem. Because if you are going to be very analytical and practical, the opposition did not lose any. The loss of 14 seats signaled a challenge. It suggests that there was some alienation. Communities where people no longer felt addressed, included, and understood. And this is the danger of the democracy, when authority is respected but no longer felt as one's own. So the citizens may acknowledge competence and they still withdraw affection. Like if you have a woman and you are providing for her and you are supporting her and you're meeting all her needs, but you're not, can run into problems. They may accept outcomes and still resent the process. They may recognize success and still feel unseen. Elections are where these contradictions surface, often clumsily, sometimes unfairly, but always honestly. Let's turn to Harry and see how we can break this down a little more for the listeners. We hope that Scratchy will be able to come back. Moderator. Thank you. I'm going to pick this up back because Harry, are you there? Ready?
I'm here, Nebo.
Thank you. Harry, the political postmortem is on, and we are looking at the whole matter of illiteracy. Now, I'm hearing some noise in the background there. Okay. Thank you for that. civic literacy, Harry. To what extent do you think that we must return the society to understand how governments work, what policies do, and what illiteracy is affecting political outcomes?
Well, neighbor, to be honest, it affects it in a great deal, specifically in the communicative way and the aspect of persons translating it for meaning to themselves. Because, of course, in terms of civic literacy, it's the essential knowledge, right? Skills and understanding of a government to participate really in terms of a democratic process, right? And that in itself is one which impacts the very people of a nation or of a country. And if the people themselves don't understand how the structural setup of a government works, then they themselves don't know at best what to demand, where to post their stress and distress, and also where to actually be directing their concerns. Now, the other part of that is also not having effective engagement when it comes on to, the likes of on a local scale, state or federal.
You have to come back up, Harry, and you're gone.
Hold on, I'm not sure if you hear me.
Let's say that. Come in again.
Hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, so I was sharing that in terms of the civic literacy itself, the people of a nation being governed need to understand this essential knowledge and the skills of any government, which is in governance, right? And as such, they will be able to better participate in that said governance in terms of understanding the structure, what arm of government does what, and as such, you're able to point your concerns, also whether that is on a local level, a state level, and I mean in some other countries it may be federal, right? And as such, neighbor, it ensures that there's effectiveness and efficiency by both sides in terms of people voicing their concerns and understanding what is being done, and also the whole engagement of both government and the people of the nation.
Okay, now, in terms of how we move forward, Harry, we are not only struggling with civic illiteracy, we are also struggling with critical illiteracy, where there's a difficulty questioning narratives, distinguishing long-term benefits from short-term rewards, or separating symbolism from substance. Look, for example, at the Hurricane Melissa recovery, and look at how much people are expecting the government almost the next day to draw them a check to put on back their roofs. That is a lack of critical literacy on how government works, Harry.
It is, neighbor. It is at a high level, and to go one further, Mr. Pernell Charles Jr. spoke of it as well, where he saw a lot of persons misunderstanding the whole aspect of that. I think it was $35,000 they were getting in two parts. They thought that was the overall money for the recovery. And as much as possible, he and his team had to be trying to communicate that to the very people. And that's a narrative we've seen even persons on social media running with, who may be party affiliates or otherwise.
Yeah. Let me hold on there for me, Harry. Let me jump over to Mr. Man from the chopping block. Hello there, Chops. How you doing? From the chopping block, Chopper, Media, Chops.
Greetings, neighbor. How you doing?
Oh, is the chopping block, man? What's on the chopping block tonight?
Not a whole lot, man. Just here
Yeah.
listening to your monologue earlier,
Yes.
and I found it very interesting because
Well, we are only 20% in. Can you ask the party if they would want the review? We have done a review, a post-mortem of the election, 35 seats. We're prepared to sell it to them. Yes.
I don't know about that selling part of it because they're
No,
not
no,
very
no,
good vendors. I know what you mean. I know what you
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
But I found it interesting because you spoke of Plato and his philosophy. And I've read him extensively too, and found him to be a little bit controversial, to say the least.
Yes.
Because if you read him deep enough, you'll recognize that you'll be asking yourself the question. And greetings to you, Harry. How you do? And Caroline. Blessings to you, my friends.
Good evening, Chops.
You'd find it a little bit worrisome to decipher whether or not he was actually against democracy in the true sense.
Yes.
But if you read his first few paragraphs, it would be easy to conclude that he's against it. But
Yes.
when he painted the picture of a perfect world, well, the city that he presented in his writing,
Yes.
had democracy written all over it too.
Yes.
Yeah. But I agree with him though, and I agree with your position.
But hold on, chap. Every person in Jamaica have one mark to make. One X.
Yes.
That they make.
Yes.
Your X is counted as equal as my X. But what Plato is saying is that understanding is not the same.
It's not.
So you are going to the poll to mark one X that could affect my life, and you don't understand what you're doing?
Well, Jamaica is a poster child for Plato's philosophy. It is a poster child. When you Google Plato's writing, a map of Jamaica and its people, the quota farm, should just appear because it's the exact scenario that exists in Jamaica.
Yes.
And that is why you would have persons like yourself and I and others who are clamoring every day for communications. It's not really communication that we're asking for, It's not communication, because the truth is, neighbor, Harry, myself, Caroline, and you, and others who are in the chat, a significant amount of persons in the chat, would not need any great communicator to explain to us where we are today. It doesn't take any high-level communication to explain what took place between 1989 and 2007 with the Jamaican economy. It doesn't take it's not splitting the atom to understand what happened. But again, it goes back to what you're asking about just now, which is to increase or improve the level of literacy in Jamaica.
Yeah, and not only literacy, not only literacy, Chops, but political literacy, how government works,
political education,
government programs, Chops, because we can be very technocratic, and governments can be very technocratic and revel in their own success. But at
especially
the same time,
our government,
the people don't understand it, In other words, a government can govern well, and yet it is poorly understood and therefore poorly rewarded. And my argument is that I believe the government was poorly rewarded on September 3 based on how it governed. And that is a problem that needs to be studied.
And again, neighbor, persons like yourself and I and others who would have latched on to the election itself, examine the results, look at it, and can be very critical about it. Because the truth is, I agree with you. And I said it on your program before. that the quality of work that the government put in for the last 10 years or so, there should not be any campaigning in Jamaica.
Well, the
There
campaign is
should
for
not
affirmation.
be, huh?
The campaigning should be for affirmation.
Yeah. I mean, Mr. Holness, Dr. Holness is out there 2 o'clock in the morning.
And would you
in St.
agree
Mary.
that the party had to mount a very strong defense of its policies
Yes,
to
had
retain
to.
government? Huh?
And it should not have been that way, given the level of performance and given the comparison with the opposition. It should not have been that way. And the reason we had that level of the level of campaign that we saw is simply because the Jamaican people cannot be trusted to make an informed decision. Is it that they're not informed? The information is there. It goes back to what you just said a while ago, which is having the knowledge, the political knowledge and understanding.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, break down this with me, Chops. I am arguing that communication, not policy, is the weak link. So the policy is strong. It is delivering the result. But the communication is a weak link. Now, here are the key arguments. Democracy, it is said, is not just doing the right thing. It's about the right thing intelligible. You know, the argument is that politics exists in the space of appearances. What people can see, hear, and narrate together. If policy success does not enter this space in a meaningful way, it practically does not exist. The challenge, Chops, is how is the state to cause its policy to be practicably applying it to the people on the ground so that they know that this is as a result of the government. For example, the $20,000 what they call it, solidarity grant.
Yes.
Why is it called solidarity grant on the ground? Couldn't we find a better way to say what this is about?
You know, when people, when initiatives are created by government, neighbor, there's a lot of things that goes into how it is presented to the people. One is acronyms are created sometimes to stimulate a certain level of interest and not speaking, not echoing what the government is saying, but just to say that perhaps using solidarity would have galvanized support for persons who existed back in the 1980s when you had a similar program created and implemented by Eddie Siaga, which was called the Solidarity Program. So again, these things are implemented not just simply for what it means today, but sometimes to connect with what it meant then. And I'm almost certain, as a matter of fact, when it was launched, the Prime Minister spoke about the synergy between what was implemented under Eddie Siaga, the Solidarity Program, and what it meant for today.
Uh-huh. All right. So the technocratic way that governments tend to create. Isn't this why, Chops, the argument has been for there to be a dual communication program, one done by government, which communicates technocratically, and one by the political party that communicates what practically.
Yeah, there has to be, neighbor, and that's the difficulty that the Jamaica Labour Party faced over the years, is that they have been very tardy in how they approach the communication, and sometimes in a lot of cases it would be bundled, because if you notice and if you go back into history, the Jamaica Labour Party has never really taken communication as serious as it ought to. In most cases, the ministry that communications fall under, which is the Ministry of Information, is usually tied to some other ministry. I cannot think of any administration formed by the Jamaica Labour Party in recent times that the Information Ministry was ever a standalone ministry with its own budget, own minister, and could chart its own course. We have not seen that. And that says a lot to me because it means that we have not really placed a lot of emphasis on communication. Yeah? So there is a problem there, neighbor. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There is a problem as it relates to how we communicate. And I agree with you. We struggle to separate political communication from government communication. There is an absolute, not just there's no gray area there. It is right from left. It is two total different type of communication.
So when Dana Morris Dixon stands up on a Wednesday and she runs the government post-cap press briefing,
yes,
Chops, that is for news media.
Absolutely.
That's nationwide. That's not communicating to those people in Coronation Market. That message from the press conference must be taken by the party, placed into a story, a narrative, and sent to TikTok.
And then you have an Abka Fitzhenley, a Marlon Morgan, and those two individuals who are also a part of the communications task force. They are now senators and cannot speak for the party, if you understand what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, they have to appear technocratic, so
exactly.
They have to appear
so
governmental.
You
have to retain the image of the government.
That's you.
Why they can't even come out on TikTok.
And I'm not picking on those two gentlemen because I know them, and I know that they are quite eloquent speakers. They are great communicators, excellent communicators. But the minute they were assigned to the Senate, a void has been created and needed to be filled immediately. If you can recall, neighbor, prior to Marlon Morgan being appointed to the ministry or being appointed as senator, you can recall how aggressive he was.
Yes.
In rebutting misinformation. There could not be a single word spoken by the PNP that would not have been challenged by Marlon Morgan.
Yes.
He cannot do that now for various reasons. And we just have to face reality. It is not to say the gentleman is not good. I think he's one of the best we have produced.
Yes, but then there are whispers on the ground, Chops, among supporters that this is so absent now that there's beginning to be a concern that if the party does not correct this, and my moderator did not give me sufficient time to explain how time come. You see that theme that the Jamaica Labour Party chose Jamaica?
Yes.
It may have been the thing that did it for them, sir. I'm going to tell you the truth. That Choose Jamaica slogan was a master stroke. As was time come. You see? And the argument is that if the party does not correct this, start to correcting it, that as good as they are, they probably will struggle going forward. What do you think?
I agree with the neighbor. And one of the things I am holding, I have not been very vocal on this subject.
Sorry, Chops, hold your thought. You are not being critical. You are being constructive in your arguments. This is not a criticism.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why I don't want it to even come across as being a criticism of such. Because the truth is, what you are saying here, neighbor, and I'm supporting your argument 100%, is something that has been discussed at various levels, but has not been made public. No, I have a document that I'm putting together now to send off to the powers that be. And in that document, I will be very, very clear where my mind is as it relates to how the party communicate. Because as it stands now, and let me tell you something, the minister with responsibility for information could not have been a better person than her. I don't know if we can find anybody in the party better than her. Absolute gorgeous.
To speak for the government, sir. She represents the government well.
And the truth is, she could actually speak for the party.
I tell you something, she's a beautiful lady to look at.
Well, not only that, she commands the room. Yeah. She's very diligent in her presentation. She's excellent at what she does.
Easy on the eyes, sir.
and not only that, neighbor, also, if you were to, and I understand you, if you were to put her, let's say she was not the minister of information, but she was now purely a party person.
Yes,
I think she could represent the political arm very well too. But the point I am making is that the two levels of communications are different, and it requires
absolutely.
It requires two different vehicles. Let me tell you something, Dave. I'll give you this analogy. In Afghanistan, back in 2004, a C-130 aircraft took off from Guantanamo Bay in Cuba.
Yes.
And it brought about 168 American troops. And they dropped them off over in Afghanistan. And I remember I was talking to a brigadier general. His name eluded me now. He was in charge of the Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq. He went on from Guantanamo Bay to there. And I remember he said to me that there has to be a difference in approach in certain conflict, because the same plane that carries the bomb should not be the same plane that carries the food. And I asked him to expand on that for me. He said, picture us dropping off pamphlets over Fallujah, for argument's sake. And the pamphlets were to explain to people that they needed to gather in a particular spot to receive aid and to get help. And then the same plane is the one that dropped the bomb yesterday. Would those people run out to get the pamphlets from the plane? No, they're going to be scared. They're going to run away. Fantastic. So in other words, I'm bringing that back to home now. The same voice that brings the information from government cannot be the same voice that brings the political argument. They are two separate vehicles and must be treated as such.
Yes, but then I know that you know this, Chops, that the party sometimes uses G2K and Young Jamaica to put out statements.
Yeah, but those are just, neighbor, I fought against that, you know. I had to stand up in meetings and say, look, folks,
but I sense that
do me a favor. Let me tell you, I had to beg, and I'm not mincing word here. I had to beg them in several meetings that, look, when you send out a press release, a digital press release, only a few people in Jamaica read it past the first paragraph or the first sentence. Yeah? You need to convert that press release into video and audio. That simply means you cover all your bases. I had to stand up and beg for that to happen. And I still think at this stage, it still has not been happening. I think we're still at the stage where we believe that putting out a press release is fine. One of the most effective things that the JLP did leading up to the elections was when we started to have those press conferences at Belmont Road, when the communicators sat around a table and dealt with the issues. It was extremely effective.
Very, and they did it weekly. Yeah.
Yes, and not just weekly. They did it when the needs arise as well. Because even if they're on a weekly schedule and something pops up, they're gonna call a press conference and they're gonna get it out there. That was aggressive and effective communicating. We're not getting that today. We're not getting that today.
Okay. Now let me move you on a little bit. We press the vacuum was a communication vacuum filled by frustration, chops. A narrative surrendered to opposition, rumor, and an educational failure more than a policy failure. So it is not that the government failed, but the government failed to communicate. That, chops, must be addressed if the party intends to strengthen its position, because wouldn't you not agree that the party's strength now is weaker than it was when it had 49?
Yeah, absolutely. The
party,
PNP,
I'm talking, not the government, the party.
Yeah, the party, and you know, it should be viewed in on two sides. Because yes, if you look at it, the government should be weaker, not necessarily the party. But in fact, if you ask me, I would want to say that the party should be stronger, because having more caretakers would then give the party stronger representation out there. In other words,
yes, sir. But when you look in the parliament on a Tuesday, I think the government would have to mobilize if there is a vote to win that vote. the opposition outnumbers the government, and for good reason, because government ministers are all over the place. But right now the government don't have the numbers in. They would have to carry people from overseas, make sure that all their ministers are in parliament if there is a critical vote.
Yes, they would definitely have to do that. But the reason I'm making that comparison just now, neighbor, is because if you have 28 opposition, 28 non-members of parliament, caretakers, constituency caretakers,
that should strengthen the party.
That strengthens the party. Because those persons should be doing the political work. Those persons should be communicating.
Yes.
So part of the breakdown that occurs, you know, is not just simply at the party hierarchy level. It comes down to the ground. I remember leading up to the general election, the party had named communicators, and they had a slew of communicators. They had all the deputy general secretaries were communicators. They were assigned to communicate. Yeah. So it means that every area council would have, and then you have, I don't want to give you the entire breakdown because that's sort of our private thing. But as it relates to the mechanism for communication within the JLP, there's a solid mechanism in place. The problem, neighbor, it's not being activated. There is a very effective mechanism in place for effective communication within the party. It is there. It just has not been activated. I'm telling you, it's there. It's there. It's there. Yeah. The setup is there. It needs somebody to mobilize. It needs somebody to get that activated and start to move it forward. But I am telling you, neighbor, that the mechanism for an effective communication within the JLP exists. It is there. I can attest to it. It is there.
Yeah. Well, sir, them have to move from press secretariats to community translators, from announcement to conversations, from reacting to shaping. The government should set the narrative for discussions in Jamaica, and stop allowing the PNP to set those narratives. A government that is always explaining, looks guilty, even when it is
Absolutely.
right.
You're always on the back foot. Yeah.
When you always have to be explaining. And so, Chops, I think there is a little bit of unease on many fronts, that such is the power of this administration's achievements, that it really should be sitting comfortably in Parliament now, rather than looking over its shoulders. What's happening to one of your members? I see him in Parliament, almost getting applause from the opposition. Maybe you don't want to comment on that.
No, I haven't seen it there, but if you bring me up to speed, I might have missed that one, eh?
Yeah. Well, one of your member on Tuesday had the opposition cheering for him when he supported them in terms of questions submitted to the speaker. Just looked a little way. Many people were.
I missed that one, neighbor. I to be brutally honest with you, I missed that one.
Go and search for it. What else is on your mind?
No, the whole communication is something, and the when you were speaking earlier about the bringing back the civics.
Yes.
And I wanted to drill down on when was it removed from the curriculum in Jamaica. That was something I wanted to explore with you, and we remove these things to our own detriment, because I think it contributes significantly to persons not understanding how government work. I for one have always been at pains to explain to people, even on social media, where there is such a void of knowledge as it relates to how government actually work, because people believe, neighbor, that, for example, you cited it earlier, a hurricane just hit Jamaica.
Yes.
And I listened to Triple X and some other guys a couple of days ago having the discussion.
Yes. Feeding the ignorance.
And I was just disappointed, because I'm saying to myself, look at this though. We are here talking about what government should have done and the time in which they should have done it. And even when I go at pains to explain to them that the things that you're asking government to do within 24 hours, it's impossible. It could not happen even if you were in America. It couldn't happen. Well, they spoke about persons in certain parishes that were cut off and the government couldn't get to them, and it's the people who have gotten to them and not government. I said, but how did you expect? What people must understand, neighbor, and I don't think, and again, it goes back to education, because what people deem government is to see a member of parliament or to see the prime minister, deputy prime minister out there in the field, in the community. Anything other than that is not government. So when they see the military out there, they say, no, it's not government, it's the army.
Even the police. I heard the prime minister with that how you think the police got there. So for government, it means the cabinet minister or the members of parliament.
Yes. So when I explain to persons that when I said to them the other day when I was making the point, that even before the hurricane hit Jamaica, government had activated shelters throughout the country, and especially in the parishes that were slated to be hit. All the parishes had all the shelters activated. Them said, no, go, sir. Is afterwards. I said, but you're not following what's happening in the country. I said, ODPEM, the Office of Disaster and on disaster Office of Disaster Preparedness Management, whatever that acronym is.
An emergency management.
And emergency management. Those persons would have been activated a day before, or 2 days before, 3 days before the hurricane.
Yeah.
The gentleman told me nothing ago, sir. I said, so when ADPEM sent people out in the field to distribute stuff, they said that's not the government.
Yeah.
So when you have that level of discussion now, neighbor,
Yeah.
help
Yeah,
me.
very
How
good.
far
Oh
do I
my
go?
God. Yeah, it's very disheartening, you know, Chops.
It's hard.
It's very disheartening, you know, man. And I guess that's why you get yourself in problems sometimes, because you can't hear it and not try to go.
It's hard sometimes.
It's hard. Yes.
You know?
Yes, it is. The other thing, Chops, is that I've looked at Wholeness playing a triple role. One is that he has to be repairing the breach while keeping the ship going and fighting disinformation. That is almost a job that requires very strong perseverance, you know, Chop. You know, Jamaica's story really needs to be analyzed and told, you know. When is the chopping block coming back? No, seriously. See, there has to be greater analyzing of the issues that we have. A lot of what we have up here on social media, Chops, a waste of time now. I tell you the truth. People are not analyzing the issues sufficiently for people to understand. Here you have a man that not only has to be repairing the ship as it floats, because he has to keep it floating, you know.
Yes.
So he has to be doing the repair job while pressing it forward, and whilst he's pressing it forward, he has to be looking out for the pirates that are always attacking the vessel.
Always.
The vessel Jamaica. But he has managed to keep it floating, Chops. Isn't that heroic, man?
It is. And again, I sometimes said to myself, you know, I don't know if I have it within me to do what Dr. Holness has been able to do, which is
and not to break down. Yeah.
Yes, because if I am just out in this space here, and when I scroll a couple days ago, and I stop for a few minutes and I listen to those guys on that TikTok page having a discussion about how government has failed and how poorly they have reacted to this hurricane. And I said to myself, but am I seeing the same country that these guys are seeing? And I joined the conversation and I asked the questions. I said, well, guys, have you listened to the United Nations mission to the Caribbean and her pronouncement? Did you hear when she said, based on her experience, looking at disasters in many countries, in many regions, and she gave 100% marks to Jamaica for their reaction and the way they reacted to the hurricane. And when she said specifically that the Ministry of Works had hundreds of contractors engaged prior to the hurricane. And when I said to the gentleman that Robert Morgan had contractors on the ground within hours after the hurricane, clearing major roadways and making it possible for aid to reach people, you know what they said to me? The first set of people to hit the ground were entertainers. Government not do nothing. So I said, then how did the entertainers got to the space if government didn't activate all the heavy equipments to clear roads?
Yes.
I said, when communities were marooned and helicopters were brought into the countries from overseas and food drops, hundreds of tons of food going over into South St. James and all over. Who did that? Was that entertainers? They said, no, are the Americans.
Yeah.
I don't know, because when you have that level of discussion coming from people like a Triple X and all of them folks,
well,
you said, well, who has a bully pulpit and loud enough and has an audience to echo that thing to? What do we
Yeah.
do, neighbor? Do we just sit there and allow them? And that's what I cannot do. It is
No,
difficult for me.
Well, that means you have to bring back the chopping block. Finally with you, Chops. Democracy is an educational project. It is an educational project. Democracy only works if the citizens are constantly being educated into it.
Mhm.
And when education fails, demagogues like Triple X thrive.
Yes, the demagogues. Yes.
Yes, sir. They
Yes.
thrive, and there are many. Look at a boy like, and I don't even want to call his name, but there's a young man. I think he probably has a little mental problem, but I saw someone said the boy is going viral. The boy spouts nothing but
Garbage.
disinformation, and he's
garbage.
going viral. Huh?
Literal garbage.
Literal garbage. As a matter of fact, I feel a sense of pity for him.
But
Demagogues.
neighbor, I told this story before that we are living in a society that does not reward what's right. Let me tell you, if you have a dance competition tomorrow morning in Halfway Tree, and you have a dance that is choreographed a particular way, it says move your foot 10 feet to the 10 times forward, 10 times backward, 10 times to the left, 10 times to the right. That's the perfect choreographed dance move. And you invite some persons on stage to do that dance as is. And you have 9 persons who did that dance, the routine, perfect. But there's this one guy who went on the stage and did something totally outrageous and different. That's the guy who is going to win.
My goodness.
That is the Jamaica. That is the world we're living in today. It is not rewarding people who does what is right.
Yeah.
It is a viral world.
And so the most popular TikTokers and bloggers are demagogues, liars.
The most ridiculous persons. Look at the guy Stevens. Nothing but lies every single day.
Yeah. And they get the viral moments.
Yes, and they get
They're
money,
the ones that
they're
get the
rewarded,
shares
they get
and make money.
Yes, people pay them for that stuff.
Yeah.
People pay them for that stuff.
Demagogues, sir. And the fact of the matter is that, but these demagogues, Chops, cannot be left alone to continue to sow seeds of discord and lies in the country. It cannot. They cannot be left.
If you do that, if you leave it alone, neighbor, every ounce of lie that is being distributed by them, if you leave it unchallenged, it becomes factual, whether we like it or not.
And so when the prime minister went to Westmoreland and spoke of war, Chops, I don't see the war yet. I must tell you the truth. And I need to see a ferocious, powerful response that brings the country. Mandela, it said, made South Africa's problem a national problem. Disinformation in Jamaica is a national problem, sir.
It is.
And I think we need to make it not a JLP problem, a national problem.
It is a problem, neighbor. And I see them moving with some level of alacrity there to get some legislation into Parliament to deal with it from a legislative point of view. But also, one of the most effective tools to fight misinformation is to flood the airwaves with the correct information.
Yeah.
Good will always conquer evil.
Yeah. Nice talking to you, man.
Thank you very much, man. Have a good evening.
Fantastic. Great.
Yeah. All right, Caroline. Good.
Uh-huh.